The reason it's in the garage today, or tonight, it's nighttime already, is because the front shocks are both broken in it. And the reason for that is passenger side was broken, but not really broken. It was just sitting a little bit low. It lost about, I don't know, about a ½ inch to an inch off the spring. Just the top of it broke off, so it still had some play in it, and it wasn't sitting too low, so I just left it like that while I was waiting for parts to come. And then the parts got here, and then I got really busy and I couldn't change it out, and I was still driving the car, and turns out I'm pretty heavy. And then the driver's side completely pancaked, so that spring is completely gone now, and the driver's side is sitting right on the bumper for the shock. So I got 2 springs. I ordered them from eBay. I think they're $100 and some a spring from Napa. I didn't even check what they were from Mercedes, and I ordered them on eBay. The exact same ones were I think 60 some bucks on eBay plus shipping. So I'll be changing both those springs out, and this time I'm going to be doing it right. Last time on the blue car, I made a video about getting the springs and the shocks out. They got the nut on the top there that is pretty hard to get it loosened. Some guys have had success with spraying some penetrating oil on there and then just letting it sit for a month or so, and then coming back with a big impact and getting it loose that way. I tried this one with the impact and it wouldn't go. So I'm going to make my own tool. The best way to remove the shocks to get at the springs is with a shaft, suspension clamp tool. I think it's called suspension clamp tool. I'll put a link when I do the video of the part number and all that, especially designed for the shock shafts on the Smart Fortwo, because they are a pain in the butt to get that nut off. And a long time ago I bought this big chunk of aluminum. It was originally going to be a heat sink for, I had a Chevrolet, a 6.5 diesel, and they have the control unit for the injection pump on the side of the injection pump, the PMD. And a lot of guys were mounting them on the bumper or mounting it on a heat sink away from the engine where all the heat was. And I bought a big chunk of aluminum, and my plan was to just cut a bunch of grooves in the back and then just mount it like that and make my own heat sink. But then I found out that the heat sinks for them weren't all that expensive, actually a lot less than this chunk of aluminum. But once it's cut and you buy it, you get to keep it. So it's come in handy once, and now it's going to come in handy again. So what I'm going to do is cut 2 chunks off of it. You see I made my line there. Careful of the windshield. So I made my line there. I'm going to cut this chunk off, cut that chunk off, and then I'm going to clamp them together with a bit of a spacer in there, and then take a drill bit, drill a hole through it from this side to that side, drill a couple holes for bolts, and then I'll be able to clamp it onto the shaft, and then I'll just put a crescent wrench on it to keep it from turning, and hopefully I can get that nut loose. Okay, so drill 4 holes in there to clamp it, and I'll probably go out in the morning and figure out what size of shaft I got. That should work pretty good. So I'll drill this one out and then put that one underneath it and drill that one out. See, there's where the spring broke. There's the piece of it on the bottom. So it just broke off right there, and then the spring shot down onto the bottom of the mount. Just gonna cut it out with the grinder. Okay, there's what's left of the spring. Have to cut it in little bits almost to get it out of there. Okay. So I got a 9/16 and I got a 5/8, and the 9/16 looks a bit small. Yeah, 9/16 is a little bit small. Looks to be about 5/8. Okay, here's my block. I got the bolts out. Let's see if I got the right diameter of hole through there. Oh, that's not metal. Oh, it is. It's just not steel. It's not non-ferrous metal. Yeah, it doesn't want to come down, so I got my pry bar in here. No, that's too small. Yeah, so I'll try the 5/8 bit, and then if that's too small, I also have a 3/4. Okay, here we go again. Okay, cross your fingers. Well, that's definitely better. So I'll go with the grinder, I'll clean it up a little bit. I'll make sure I remove all the grease off that shaft. Or just wipe it with a rag or something, at least. And yeah, this strut is probably a little bit destroyed. I drove it for about 2 weeks on it. Bottomed right out. But I can't afford a new one at the moment, so we'll see how it goes. Should be fine. Yeah, when you're changing out your springs, it's a good idea. Change out your axle bearing too. And you can change them out at the same time, and you know you're good for a while then. This car has 130 30 some thousand kilometers on it, 140,000 kilometers. And the passenger side spring went at around 130, I think, and the driver side spring went at probably at 140, just after 140. So that's how long they last, depending on how many bumps you drive over, and you know, how much city driving you do compared to highway driving, because there's a lot more bumps in the city. And if you're driving it in the wintertime is generally more bumpy, and then you get the salt on the springs, and you know, they can rust and they can fatigue, and then they can break. So, well, they can fatigue without rust, but yeah, seems to be they go around the same amount of kilometers. The other one had 100. The other one I had when I got it had 185,000 kilometers. And both springs on the front were just totally destroyed. And I think they were driving it like that for a while, so I don't know when it went, but around the same period, I think it went around the same amount of kilometers. If you're driving your smart car and it's awfully bumpy and the tires are right up into the fender, that's probably what it is. Both your front springs are broke. You can buy a clamp online, or you can make your own, like what I'm doing here. So I'll go clean this up and we'll see if it works. I don't know if I'm going to be able to fit this big piece on. This one's a little bit longer. I was thinking I could leave the tab on there, leave this one longer, and then put my crescent wrench on that big tab. But I think it's a little bit too big to fit into the, I don't know what you call it, the big divot on the top there, where the strut or the shock bolts into. Yeah, I'm gonna have to cut it down. It's possible you could make one a little bit shallower, maybe 2 inches high, and yeah, the tool you can buy for it, you know, the fancy tool that's made with proper tools. The tool that's made with the proper tools is quite a bit smaller. Like, it's, you know, just past the bolts. I don't know what it's made out of. This is not billet aluminum. This is just a chunk of aluminum. I don't know what the alloy is, but it's not the super strong stuff like you'd find on a vehicle rim or something like that. So there are different types of aluminum. This is just regular soft aluminum. But it's thick enough, it's not gonna, it'll work. And the reason I'm using aluminum is because the aluminum will not damage the shaft as long as you don't have any bits of steel in there. So always use a softer metal than what you're clamping to, and then it should work. So I'm gonna go cut that down. Okay, well, nothing left to do but to see if it works. It's not the most precise built tool, but that's something that anyone can do in the garage if they have a grinder and a small drill press. We don't need a big drill press to drill through that. Aluminum is pretty soft. You just need a good set of bits, whatever size you want your bolt holes to be, and 5/8 for the shaft, with a bit of a space in there so when you tighten it up, it has room to tighten down. And that's pretty much it. It might work with just 2 bolts instead of the 4, but I wanted to have a lot of clamping force on there, because I got to drive back for work tomorrow morning, so I got to change out both springs and the axle bearing, and head out before the end of the day, so I'm at work in the morning. So I got to make sure it works. So I really wanted it to clamp hard, so it's not going to slide in there. And yeah, we'll see if it works. I need a little bit more. lever action. Gonna get that to go down a little farther. There we go. Now that one just goes on like that, but I'm gonna have to put the camera down. What's going on with the WD-40? Does WD-40 freeze? I don't think so. It's a brand new can. That'll work. Okay, I got my socket on there. I used a deep 13/16 socket. That one's a well-used socket, so it just fit over the nut nice and easily. With a knuckle on there and a 12-inch extension and a 16-inch breaker bar. And I got my big crescent wrench clamped on there. You can use a pipe wrench as well. You just hook your pipe wrench on there. Depending on how tight it is, you can rest the crescent or pipe wrench on the inner fender. Just careful your paint on your body panel. Might be a good idea to get someone to give you a hand. One guy or girl holding the wrench and the other guy or girl loosening off with the breaker bar. Yeah, or put something heavy or where it can rest against. So I'll give it a try. Little bit of a tight angle, but it worked. Should be able to get that off by hand. There we go. I got the nut off. So my clamp worked, at least on this side. My clamp block will come out with the strut or the shock. So there's two bolts that clamp the shock on the top, and then there's one big bolt that holds the bottom and holds the spindle on, or the wheel bearing and hub. And then shock comes out. I might have to take the steering arm off. It just unbolts there. But probably not. Once yeah, I don't remember what I did on the other one. I think, yeah, steering arm can probably stay. when you have the bolt out of the spindle or the axle bearing there, and you have the clamping bolts, this whole assembly can just come out this way, and then you can take the shock out, replace the spring, and put it back in. Yep, the passenger side always comes off. Very difficult. I've been torquing on it, and it kind of feels like it's moving, but I don't know. So you can watch and enjoy how difficult it is to take the passenger side off as opposed to the driver's side, which came right off. For whatever reason, that passenger side is on there good. Here. Oh, I was getting worried because I already cut the spring off, and if this nut stripped out or I couldn't get it loose, then I don't know what I was going to do tonight, because I have to be at work early in the morning. But it came loose. It loosened off. It's just the knuckle joint here that's cocking me over now. Just too steep of an angle on this side. Yeah, there's the passenger side nut. Compared to the driver's side, that one is a whole heck of a lot more rusted. The driver's side was still rust free. This one is rusted pretty good. Got the nut off the top. I got the strap for the shock, or the shock mount off. I got the flex bolt out of the axle hub there. So just give it a couple taps and it should come out just like that. And there we go. Even that nut underneath that top nut is rusted out. I'll leave the clamp on there to take it out. And also, I didn't tighten the two top bolts on my clamping device here. So that means if a fella wanted to, you can make a more narrow one with just two bolts. And this side came off pretty hard and it didn't spin. And I only had it clamped with the two bolts. So it will work if you make it with two bolts, I imagine, unless it's really, really stuck on there. So that's good news. I can cut this thing in half and it'll still be good, and then I can get it in there in between the springs, and maybe I can tighten the bolt up after I get the shock back in with the spring. And then the next time I take it off, it'll be difficult again, but oh well. So the bottom of the shock, the threads are rusted out too. It's a good idea to spray some WD-40 in there. WD-40 also removes moisture, so any moisture that's causing it to rust like that will be removed with the WD-40. At least until you drive it through the snow again. But it's got to work through the threads. So, ready to install it. So it's got to hold the shock up while you put the nut on the top, which is easier said than done. You can throw the clamp on, but I like putting the nut on first, wherever I put the nut. There's also a big metal washer on the top of that. Don't forget that. If you pulled your strut out and then this slid down somewhere, this metal washer goes on the other side, on the top there. Well, I can't get it on there easily, so I shove a spacer under there, and I'll get the top on first. There we go. I just shoved something in there. on the bottom of the shock, and when the control arm came up, just pushing it up into the hole, so now I can get the washer and the nut on there. So there's the washer there, and I just got to get the nut on it. If you have a big hand, it's kind of a tight area to get into, but if your hand is too big, I guess you need someone with a smaller hand. But I have a pretty big hand and I can fit it in there, kind of. Oh, almost lost the nut. There we go, I got it. I got it. Okay, I got the nut down fairly far. You can always tighten it up afterwards. You can get everything else in place and then tighten it up. You're not going to get it very tight unless you throw your shock shaft clamp on there again to clamp it from and keep it from spinning while you tighten the nut. I just went with the impact and spun it up, and then that's as tight as it's going to go. When I did the other one, and that held on there for like 60,000-70,000 kilometers until the car got into an accident, so never loosened off. So now I got to get that hole on that shaft. Yeah, hopefully I can well, what I'm probably going to do is lift the car up a little bit more, because I could push it down. It was just my bar was hitting on the ground. So I have my bar underneath the control arm, or what is that, the sway bar. I have my bar under the sway bar and on the control arm, and just using that to push down. But my bar hits the ground, so I got to raise the car a little bit higher so I can get so I can push the control arm down and get the shock to sit on that little shaft there. There, I took the wire brush to my bolt and spray some zinc primer on it. And hopefully that'll stop the rust so it doesn't stick in there. And I just sprayed everything with paint. Damn it. It's okay. There, I got it on the collar at the back. There we go. I still got to put the spindle and all that on, but at least I got it on the collar at the back now. See, it's on there tight. See, it's on there tight now. And once it's on that collar, And once it's on that see, it's on the collar there now. And once it's on the collar, before I remove that bolt, I'm going to put the clamp on. And then once the clamp is on, I can remove that bolt once again and put my spindle on, or my wheel bearing.